Thank you so much. That was inspiring. It was timely. It was full of questions. And as you were talking, I was trying to think of what I was going to offer to feed into the discussion. So you will forgive me because I will have to hop around in my very messy notes and hope I don't leave too much aside. What I would like to theme my contribution as is inspired by the questions you raise, how to achieve better multilingualism. So going beyond the technocratic approach, as you were putting it. And I would like to start by going back to what I believe is very much at the heart of a lot of your research so far, Lourdes, which is recognizing the value of other languages, the languages of the other, the languages of the multilingual people. And everything I will say, it will be framed within a very English-like society where we have a dominant language, that is the official language, and yet we have many people speaking other languages in the country. So that will be the kind of frame within which I'm going to be talking here. And I would like to start with the words of the wonderful Asfa Majid, who says that each language provides a unique solution to how humans communicate coordinate their social and physical worlds. And so coming to understand another language helps us see beyond our own worldview. And I believe that, even without completely learning another language, but by dealing with multi-language learners, as many primary school, secondary school teachers do, for instance, we can already appreciate that by inviting the children in our classroom to use whatever the resources of their language also brings us to, shine a light on how they see the world. I can find, if I observe myself, I do it all the time with French. There's ways that, make me see the world in a particular way, and I will find a way of embedding that into my speech. And I believe that in a classroom, it is very important to do so. Now, I'm also very much aware of what you were saying, that, of course, language as one of the dimensions of our identity is also a possible conduit for discrimination and injustice. But I believe that, by having a general attitude of inclusiveness and of seeing the other languages as richness rather than something you have to deal with in the multi-language classroom, we can already start at a very, very early age. You can start in kindergarten or, in nurseries, valuing this in the other. And I believe this could have a really, powerful change in the long run. Another way in which I believe that, in the classroom we could use the other language as a source of richness is every language is a system that itself is a window onto other languages, right? So by looking at similarities between the languages spoken by the pupils in your classroom, by looking at the differences, we can perhaps fast track some of the learning or perhaps help overcome misunderstandings. If your language doesn't have determiners, maybe you're going to mess up a bit in English, and if the people you deal with are used to that, they will perhaps be able to allow better for the meaning that you were intending to impart. So I believe these are small things that could be embedded without, as a kind of multilingual approach within the classroom. Now, you were saying, who will benefit from multilingualism in the global market, and whose multilingualism is praised, despised, or ignored? This echoed for me the words of Saika Riasat, who is a very inspiring teacher from Bradford that I've been lucky to meet. I believe she did an MA in the School of Education, actually. So she, her experience was very much one in which, throughout her childhood, she saw her multilingualism as a kind of a social scar, as something she had to hide, as an embarrassment that her mother could not speak English, as something that she had to suppress in the classroom, contrary to other multilingual learners in the classroom who were praised, "Oh, you speak Spanish, what a clever girl. So that was her experience very much until she had this light bulb moment where she realized that her own multilingual experience is something that not only was core to her identity, but was something that she could use for greater good. And she has created the Bilingual Learning and Teaching Association in Bradford, where she very much promotes the use of the home language in the classroom, whether the teacher knows it or not, as a way of, making whole the identity of the pupils in the class. And anyway, going back to the points I was making earlier, I don't want to speak too long. And then the final thing I would like to say is, again, coming back to this, staying with the theme of the primary classroom, small children. The classroom really should be one of these safe environment where we can perhaps do some, take it as a kind of lab for, greater social justice. And so there are a lot of very inspiring approaches that are being developed at the moment to support EAL children, so children with English as an additional language, that are inspired by art. In particular, recently, a project called, Leeds Meets Shakespeare, developed an approach that wasn't necessary for multilingual children, but had a massive impact on them. There's other, such schemes, for instance, Speech Bubbles in London and others, where every lesson was started by creating a safe space with a string, and whenever you stepped within that string, you were in the story. And so enabling the children to get into the story space, then gave them, license to use language in whichever way worked for them, and that was really empowering. And then, building on that with a kind of a richer, fuller, restored, if you want, identity, a lot of extra language work or literary work or whatever they were doing could be built upon more effectively. So I believe that, the classroom is really one of the places we want to focus on, invest in as one of these labs for better social justice, and perhaps through that achieve better multilingualism. And that's it. Thanks.